5 years, I've been teaching at Bard College as Professor of the Arts. And each year I get to teach a total of about 24, 25, 26 students. I love the teaching process. I love getting to work with students. I love getting to show people ways to write.
Welcome back to the crypt. I am going to be going over Masterclass with you guys. I've mentioned it before when I've talked about author tubers on this platform who utilize their platform to do writing classes, and how the idea has made me uncomfortable, mostly due to lack of experience of these individuals, and it's not just writing experience, although that's like a major problem. Most of these people who are teaching classes have very few to almost no books under their belt, yet they're teaching courses on it. In addition to lack of general writing experience, many of these individuals also don't have any teaching experience. Whereas for pretty much everyone I can find on Masterclass has taught in a professional setting before to some extent. Putting all of that aside, with whether or not people have qualifications to teach online, I want to see if authors I was interested in on Masterclass, if those classes held any value to someone who has been writing already for years. And while I'm not gonna say like I know much to anything about publishing, that's kind of the thing, the scary big monster in the corner I'm trying to learn about now. When it comes to the act of writing and creating stories, that's old hat to me. I've been writing stories, specifically short story form, for years. I have a library of about 50 plus short stories completed. That's a scary thing I have to go over in a couple of months. Some spring cleaning needs to be done on my hard drive. So Neil Gaiman is probably one of the more popular of the creative writing courses, but he's definitely not the only one on there. I have a trial period and I'm on vacation right now, New Year's. So I'm gonna take the next couple days. I'm gonna be going over both Neil Gaiman's course as well as Margaret Atwood's courses, because both of those intrigue me the most, and I don't think I can cram more than that in my vacation time. Oh, one more thing. Masterclass does not know I exist. They are a major corporation and I am a small nothing YouTuber that doesn't even monetize her stuff. So I am not sponsored, but I just want to make it very, very clear that I have had no communication with these people. I was given a free week-long trial via a friend of mine who had a guest pass and was generous enough to offer it to me. Okay, I'll get back to you guys in a bit.
Let me give you some advice. The first question that I get asked all the time is, I am an aspiring writer, what should I do? And I give an answer that is meant absolutely seriously, and some people think it's flippant. It isn't. That answer is, you should write. And some people say, yes, I am already writing. What should I do now? And I say, you should finish things.
All right, so hi, welcome back. Some good points. Overall, I really liked Neil's class. I think it was really good. I will talk at the end of this review, like after I do Margaret Atwood stuff, I'll talk about who I think Neil's class is best for. But just off the top of my head, some good things that I really liked is I liked the kinds of nuance that Neil gave to certain points he made, specifically when he disagreed with some very long-standing things in the writing community, specifically Show Don't Tell. When he added the nuance, it did make sense. I can totally see why he's so popular for young writers to look to for advice, because the way he explains things is very almost gentle. It's very easy to comprehend, but it also still has that magic and mysticism to it. It's not so easy that it's dumbed down. He's not dumbing things down for the audience. He touched on some really varied stuff that I didn't expect, such as comic books. I found that part to be really, really interesting because I have an artist friend who does comics that's been trying to get me to do a script for them for a really long time. Haven't gotten around to it, and I think part of it is like, I really don't know how to do that. But the way he explained his process made a lot of sense, and it gave me a lot of insight, so that was really cool. Even though I've been writing for a really long time, I feel like I got quite a bit out of it. Specifically, I just feel really validated in certain things that were really hard for me to nail down, but the way he talked about it, it made sense. Specifically, like, description. I'm very self-conscious of my descriptions I give because I love dialogue and I love playing with interactions between characters. So I glaze over a lot of descriptions because I just want to get to the good, fun stuff. When you use a description for world building, describing London, it was more a sense of what the place felt like, less what London actually looked like. He wasn't describing exactly what the buildings looked like physically. He was more describing what it felt like to be in London on a busy day. It's kind of the writer I like to be. Like, some of my favorite authors and the way they do description is more giving you a sense of you feel like you're there, more than being able to replicate exactly what it looks like. Some of my old professors would be really weird about, exactly how something looks, but in reality, when I'm reading, I don't like full stops describing every single aspect of a castle. I don't care. Get me through what is the character feeling? Are they scared? Is it smell weird in the castle? Does it feel damp in there? Is the air dry and hot from all the fires and torches that have been lit? Like, what does it feel like? That's going to give me such a better sense of place than describing the tapestries on the wall. Unless, of course, the tapestries play a role in the story, but they usually don't. So yeah, I think this is kind of where I think Neil's class shines, is like kind of being almost a healing kind of class. Like, if you have a lot of fears and anxieties about certain parts of the process, especially from being told incorrect information from teachers or being hounded by teachers, I feel like Neil's class is really good at just being a salve to that. So yeah, it was good. It was solid. And so now it's time to dive into the next one, Margaret Atwood's class.
Who are you writing this for, and what do you want to tell them? I think there might be a bit too much theory kicking around in the world, that it has to be this, it has to be that. But the first thing is, writing is a voice.
Welcome to the end. So I really enjoyed these classes, but I gotta say, full disclosure, I actually kind of enjoyed Margaret Atwood's a little bit more. Some really good points about Margaret Atwood's class is that she takes a little bit more time for going over structure, yet she doesn't do it in an authoritarian, this is exactly how it works kind of way. It's more along the lines of, this is what I've experienced and these are the things that have often worked for me and this is why they probably work. She does, just like Neil, go into a lot of nuance, so the rules are explained, but she also is very blunt in dismissing some of those rules. So certain things about genre she completely dispels. She dispels the idea of plot driven versus character driven. She dispels that one. She's like, look, most good books, they're going to be both. They have to have both. She's just really down to earth. My favorite part about the way in which she talked about writing processes is she fully disclosed and shared her own process, including showing on camera her drafting process and what her papers look like, full of bubbles and arrows going everywhere, and incredibly messy handwriting you can barely decipher. And for me, this was very cathartic because I have a very, very messy style when I'm in it. Like, my really nice outline that you guys saw during my outlining video, I had shown you guys, I think, a little bit of the rougher sketches that I was like copying to make a nicer one, but I don't know if you guys have seen like what it looks like now. Let's see if I can grab it real quick. It has very much become more of a mess, and I don't know if I can zoom in far enough, but I have little arrows, I have check marks, I have stars, I have a bunch of added stuff I've put in. I think this is just, it's really nice to see because I know I come off as very organized, but when my brain starts actually running and hitting the ground running, I go really fast. And once I start hitting that, it gets messier. The process gets messier and messier and messier. Some of my stuff for the very end of Project Clockwork is undecipherable even to me at times. Like, there would be times I'd be looking at my notes saying, what did I just write? I don't even remember, because I was going so fast that my penmanship is illegible at that point. And that's usually how I know I'm on a good streak, is usually the less legible my notes become. But I really just liked that, how blunt she was of like, that waste paper basket, that's going to be your friend. That if one thing doesn't work, junk it and try something else. Like, if you're stuck in your story, change the point of view. If you're stuck in your story, change where the story starts. Most of the time, where your story ends isn't where you think it's going to end. It's going to end in a totally different spot. The real ending isn't that. And that's normal. It's normal for your first draft, especially really key parts like where you start and where you end are going to be totally different in draft 2. She would admit that, like, yes, you should be doing research. Yes, you should be doing these things. But at the end of the day, like, these words need to be your words. And you need to be really careful that you fall back into other people's words, other people's ways of doing things. Because then you've just defeated the purpose of telling your story, because it's not yours anymore. I feel like it gave me a lot more firm advice than Neil's did. However, and this is where we're going to get into like which classes I recommend for what kinds of people. Her approach was a little more practical, and especially in the parts of like when she talks about editing, when she talks about feedback, she goes way more in depth into those things than Neil does. And I feel like because those are the parts of the process I've been in for the last over a year now, that was the stuff that I mined the most out of. And because she had more meaty stuff to give, that was really useful and I really enjoyed it. However, what I think Neil Gaiman's class did really, really well, I feel his class was best for writers who have been, their creative spirit has been harmed in some way. So people who, you know, went to college and they had really cruel professors that really just ripped them to shreds for no reason. You know, being told show don't tell to the point of you feeling you're being beat to death with it, where people are using writing rules as a weapon to attack you versus, you know, being encouraged to keep moving. People who have been creatively harmed, I feel, would benefit a great deal from Neil's class. Neil's class is very healing. And I think I mentioned that when I was talking about how I felt about the class overall, and I still feel that way. Those are the two different classes. I think they're both very beneficial classes. I think if you have Masterclass or you've been thinking about getting it and these two classes have piqued your interest, I think both are beneficial, just in slightly different ways. And it really depends on what you're looking for. But I liked them both a lot. Do I think you should run out and like buy a subscription if you're going to be paying that subscription fee, which is quite hefty, honestly? You need to make sure you have enough courses to make it worthwhile. I do think if you have at least 3 to 4 classes that you're going to utilize, I think it might be worth it. If you can get a guest pass, like what I utilized from a friend, if you can go halvesies with a friend and do a family plan or something, I think that's probably going to be the most beneficial way to do it, simply because these are not classes, and this is where I get into a little bit of my critique of Masterclass as a whole. These are lectures. They're very well done lectures. They're very well structured. They're very well organized, but they're lectures at the end of the day. To my knowledge, at least on the app I have, I couldn't find any way to interact with other students of any kind, which to me makes the subscription kind of confusing, because why am I paying for a subscription when I could pay, watch the class, leave? The subscription fee, I think, is just kind of a money grab thing. I very much don't agree with it. But again, like if you have the time for it and you have enough classes that you really want to do, it might be worth it. And I think compared to like taking a college course, it is significantly cheaper, but a college course has class interaction, whereas this does not. I would call this a master class. I would call these master lectures. Anyway, that was my whole thing. Once more, with Fever, I am not known by Masterclass. They don't know who I am. I'm not sponsored in any way, shape, or form. I did this because a friend of mine offered me a guest pass that was expiring. That's the whole reason I did this. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was entertaining. If you've taken a Masterclass or any like online creative writing classes, I'd really like to know about your experience down below. Please let me know, like, did you enjoy Masterclass or any other classes that you've taken? Are there things that you were really disappointed in? What are those? Like, what would you have liked to see more of? Anyway, thank you guys so much, and have a great January.
Next. The best thing is, how quickly did you read it? If the answer is I couldn't put it down, then you're in really pretty good shape.